Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and for this video I will tell about a fairy tale. Fairy tale must be very close to children, and as a child I really like this fairy tale. But have you ever realized that the fairy tale that we read and the one we like when we were little turned out to be a scary story? Instead of being curious, here are some fairy tales that are often read by children, which turns out to be behind a scary story. Let's get started. And for the first is Swan Girl. Let's start this list with one of the famous fairy tale from the collection of the Grimm Brothers fairy tale that dominate this list. Once upon a time, there was a queen who sent her daughter to marry a prince in a faraway land. Like any good mother, she makes a charm out of her own blood to protect her daughter, then sends her along with a servant and a talking horse, Falada. Unfortunately, while drinking the charm his mother gave him fell into the river. Seeing the princess without protection, the maid betrayed her, then forced her to change clothes and take a Falada. When they arrive at their destination, the maid introduced herself as the princess while the real princess was forced to become the maid assigned to look after the Greece. The servant then kills Falada for fear of his secret being exposed. A desperate real princess bribed the butcher to hang a Falada head on the city gates so she could talk to him every day. One day, a boy named Conrad told the king about a strange girl who spoke with a hoarse squeal and could control the weather. The king was curious and asked the princess to tell the story, but the princess did not want to answer. The king, getting more and more curious, advised him to talk with the stuff, but secretly eavesdropped and eventually found out the whole story. The king then betrayed his son to a real princess and had the servant naked, but put him in a thorn barrel and dragged him around the city until he died. 2. The Handel's Maiden. This is a story taken from a collection of stories from the Grimm brothers. This bloody tale begins when a miller meets an old man in the forest. Long story short, the old man offers the miller all the wealth in the world in exchange for whatever was behind the mill, thinking that only the old apple tree was standing behind the mill. The miller immediately agreed, and the old man promised to return in 3 years. But when the miller returned home, he was very surprised to know that his daughter was standing under the apple tree. As it turned out, the old man's figure was a devil, and when he returned, the miller's daughter purposely made herself holy so that he could not to touch. First thus, the devil forced his father to do everything he could, until finally he ordered the miller to cut off his daughter's hand. Amazingly, the girl's tears washed away her bleeding scars. The devil finally gave up. The story continues when the girl leaves her house and goes to a kingdom filled with a fierce wet path blocked by a deep moat. After praying, an angel prayed to help the girl, and the next day, the royal gardener reported seeing a handless spirit who had crossed the moat and stolen a pear. Curious, the king hid in the garden so he could see the figure. The king was smitten when he saw the king in the garden so he could see the figure. The king was smitten when he saw it and immediately married the girl, then made a pair of silver hands for her. The devil, who was still furious because he didn't get the girl, started plotting bad things. He also forgot a letter from the king, who was away at war, ordering his mother to kill their wife and child. Unable to kill her own son-in-law and grandson, the king's mother ordered them to flee. He then killed the deer and then gave the deer tongue and eyes to his son as a proof that he had killed them. The king was heartbroken and promised not to eat or drink until he found his missing wife and child. Although it took 7 years, The king finally found his wife in a small cottage near the palace. Although at first he did not recognize her because his wife's original hand had grown back since leaving the palace. And the three feature bird. The feature bird tells the story of beggar who like to kidnap a young girl. While visiting the house of three sisters, her persuade the eldest to let him in. The beggar took him to his golden house, where he promised to give her everything he wanted if she stay and become his wife. Then the beggar went and gave him an egg, telling the girl to guard and forbid him from entering a curtained room. After he left, the girl was curious and began to enter the forbidden room. There he found a basin filled with blood and the multi-talent remains of the girl. Freaked now, the girl dropped the egg, making it a drench in blood until she couldn't clean it. When the beggar came back and saw the blood egg, he immediately dragged the girl into the forbidden room and cut it. He then returns home and kidnaps the next sister who suffered the same fate. Finally, he returns to kidnap the youngest suspicious, but careful, the youngest hits the egg before entering the forbidden room. There he found the dismal bodies of his two sisters. Quickly put the fish back together and then returned them. When the beggar returned and saw that there was no blood in the egg, he announced that the youngest had passed the test and would be his bride. As a wedding gift, the girl asked him to give a gold basket to her father, but secretly hid her two sisters in the basket. The youngest then put the skull in the window and covered herself with honey and feather to hide in the trees and disguise herself as a bird. When the beggar and his friend came for the wedding party, the three sisters came and immediately locked the house, then burned them alive in it. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and see you in my next video. Bye guys.